Touchdown, Alabama, let's get it.
The process, no one can stop this. Hottest show in the streets, I bet you can't top this. Rammer, jammer, yellow hammer, come see how we rock this. Alabama fans the best, there's no way you can top this. Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
Recruiting news and interviews, just sit back and watch this.
The process.
Hey everyone, Justin Smith here, scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama. Thank you guys so much for joining me today on our YouTube channel. The first thing I want and need you to do is hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, subscribers, hit that notification bell, be notified when we drop content on our YouTube channel. I am here each week to break down the latest in Crimson Tide football recruiting news. And on this episode of The Process, I do want to provide you guys some recruiting updates that I was able to obtain by hitting the road this past weekend. Traveled to Gainesville, Florida on Thursday, made it to Clearwater, Tampa, Florida area on Friday, made it back to Alabama on Saturday, and had an opportunity to check out another game on Saturday night that I will provide an update from, as 2024 four-star defensive back Caleb Beasley and Lipscomb Academy was able to defeat Thompson High School and Alabama's five-star defensive back commit Tony Mitchell. I want to provide an update on Beasley, talk about Keon Keeley, who's one of the Crimson Tide's top targets who I saw on Friday. Also talk about Jaron Hamilton, a 2023 wide receiver who the Crimson Tide are going after, who I saw on Thursday. We'll also wrap up things by talking about 2023 four-star wide receiver Jalen Hill, who is set to take an official visit to Alabama on this weekend. We're going to start today's show by talking about Beasley. Like I said earlier, he's a 2024 four-star defensive back out of Lipscomb Academy in Nashville, Tennessee. I think this is a prospect Alabama fans need to know. I think a lot of programs across the nation will need to know this kid heading into the 2024 recruiting cycle once this 2023 recruiting class wraps up. Took an unofficial visit to Alabama in June. Captaintuscaloosa did not receive an offer because the Crimson Tide's coaching staff wanted to evaluate him a little bit more, get an opportunity to watch his film from this season. And he's off to a hot start to start his junior campaign, helping Lipscomb Academy defeat two high school powerhouses in two different states. First, helping them defeat Milton High School by making an outstanding pick, showing great ball skills when he made a fantastic interception. Great size, 6'1", 180 pounds. That play really stood out to me when I saw him play last Friday after Bruford Thompson, Milton, and Lipscomb Academy played. But I had an opportunity to watch him again on Saturday when Lipscomb played against Thompson. Of course, they defeated Thompson. He sealed the game up by picking up a fumble and returning it for 100 yards to help Lipscomb win the game 24-14. Showed off some great speed on that particular play, going back to those ball skills which he consistently showed on that night. But on Saturday night, I also saw that he is a willing tackler. So I think he is a 2024 prospect to know. I think he's going to be one of the top cornerback prospects in the 2024 recruiting class. Already highly rated on most recruiting sites, with him having a four-star rating. Has more than 30 offers at the moment. I feel he's a guy that Crimson Tide will give a look. Had an opportunity to catch up with him after the game. He said Alabama's coaching staff has been in contact with him since he camped in terms of what he thought about the Crimson Tide. He said that he feels that Alabama is definitely a great program. Nick Saban is the greatest coach in college football. The DB crew there, they have knowledge ridiculous, pointing out Malachi Moore and Jordan Battle. He said they produce defensive backs, so it's definitely a great school. So he speaks highly of the Crimson Tide. He said he's off to an impressive start in his mind, so he feels that an offer from them could come in the future. So he's going to be a guy to watch out for. I have been highly impressed with him after watching him in 2 games this season. Some other guys had an opportunity to watch it on this past weekend were Keon Keeley and Jaron Hamilton. I'm going to first start off by talking about Keon Keeley, the 2023 5-star defensive end or edge rusher out of Berkeley Prep in Tampa, Florida. If you've been following Alabama recruiting, Keon Keeley is a name you have heard a lot over the last few weeks. Recently decommitted from Notre Dame, reopened his recruitment after taking an unofficial visit to Alabama in July. Leading up to that visit, the Crimson Tide were constantly talked about as the favorite to flip Keon Keeley when he was a Notre Dame commitment, and ever since he decommitted from the Fighting Irish, the Crimson Tide have become the favorite, but they are not the only school pushing for Keeley at the moment. But Alabama commits have been openly recruiting Keeley across the landscape. Both of their running back commits, Justice Haynes, Richard Young, offensive line, basically most every commit in the 2023 recruiting class for the Crimson Tide have been recruiting Keeley, including some 2024 prospects who are verbally committed to Alabama at the moment. As you guys are able to see, if you did not see, you guys can check out the video on our YouTube. I was able to capture Keon Keeley dancing to Sweet Home Alabama. Seemed to be sending a message, if you ask me, because he did not dance to any song throughout the warm-ups and throughout the night, because there was not much for him to dance about with Berkeley Prep going down on Friday night. And had an opportunity to see him in action. Be sure to check out our highlights from his last game, his first game of the season. Also included in the highlight package is some live reaction, live analysis from yours truly. But just giving a quick overall analysis of his game. First off, he looks the part, 6'6", 240, definitely has great length. That size is verified in my opinion. He's very close to there. If you may be off a couple of inches with his height, could be 6'5", but he looks in that 6'5", 6'6" range. So I feel that size is verified. Great length, long arms, is developed a little bit more in his upper body at this point in his development. We all saw his huddle film, his highlight film from his junior season. I think he racked up around 16 sacks. So he's a dominant edge rusher when he's allowed to go after the quarterback, and the quarterback is dropping back. Unfortunately for Keeley, the other team knew that heading into this matchup. This was a rivalry game for them, so they were very, very familiar with Keon. So they basically ran away from him in every way imaginable throughout the night. You guys can see that in that particular highlight package. I mean, they did not drop back throughout the night. They probably dropped back 3 times, and if they did pass the ball, they rolled out to the opposite side like Keeley was, basically getting the snap, running on right up. Keeley was lined up on the left. He did outrun some plays early, but I feel that was more so jitters. I think it is the first game, excited to get into the backfield, so he was exploding into the backfield, and the play was basically getting ran away from him. He sort of outran the play, getting into the backfield very quickly, and sometimes he left the gap open, and the running back took advantage of that. So overall, it wasn't a great game for Keeley in terms of stats, sacks, and tackles, but its impact was definitely felt. So I walked away impressed with Keeley. I feel that quarterback did drop back. I think Keeley would have made a little bit more noise. But in terms of his recruitment, has an official visit to Ohio State set up for this weekend when the Ohio State Buckeyes take on the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. He's also taking an official visit to the Florida Gators as well. He will take an official visit to Alabama most likely in October, and Crimson Tide take on the Texas A&M Aggies. So when Keeley verbally decommitted from the Notre Dame Fighting Irish, we knew the Crimson Tide were the heavy favorite, but we also knew there were other teams involved like Ohio State and Florida. With them staying in Tampa, I went to Gainesville on Thursday and got to Tampa Friday. It's not a long drive. He grew up actually going to some Florida games, so Florida is definitely at least a threat at this point in his recruitment, as he will continue to look at them taking an official visit there. It's very close to home, but we'll take that official visit to Ohio State this weekend. With Alabama, official visit looks like when the Crimson Tide take on the Texas A&M Aggies, which will be a huge weekend for the Crimson Tide. That's taking a look at all the other prospects who have locked in official visits, unofficial visits. So I feel the Tide still in a good position. With Keeley, I still feel at this moment that they are the favorite, but Ohio State and Florida are trying to change things for Keeley at this point in his recruitment. Jaron Hamilton is another prospect I had an opportunity to watch. I actually watched him on Thursday in Gainesville when they took on Lake City High School. He currently attends Buckholz High School in Gainesville, Florida. Currently has a top 7, has a Tide included in that with USC, has Michigan. Also looking at programs like Ole Miss, who's not listed in his top 7 at the moment, but he told me they are making moves in this recruitment, really pushing hard for him at the moment. He feels that they have a really fun offense. He currently has an official visit scheduled to Alabama will be in Tuscaloosa when the Crimson Tide take on the Auburn Tigers in the Iron Bowl. His relationship with Alabama's coaching staff still in a really good position, but he's told me that it could always get better. He's looking forward to taking that official visit to Alabama to strengthen that relationship, and he's also looking at announcing a commitment most likely after the season, but he currently wants to sign in February, which is something that could happen. That is a traditional signing period. The Crimson Tide sign all of the guys who were verbally committed to them before the early signing period, during the early signing period. So if he does commit to the Crimson Tide at the end of his senior season and he's verbally committed to them, I got a good feeling that they will encourage him and try to get him to sign in December to get that over with. I think that is something that we're going to see throughout the country, throughout the future of college football recruiting. Most of these recruiting classes are going to be indie booked during the early signing period, which is something we have seen over the last couple of seasons. But the Tide are still heavily indie mixed for Hamilton. He said that he feels that they are still on him heavy in terms of what he did on Thursday night. He was really impressive. He's listed as a 3-star wide receiver on most recruiting sites. I feel that it's going to change. It's more recruiting sites outlets getting an opportunity to see him, but we got an opportunity to see him on Thursday. Easily a 4-star recruit, great size, probably 6'1", 6'2", 180 pounds. Impressive releases off the line of scrimmage throughout the night, quickly creating separation on routes from cornerbacks. You guys can watch his highlight package on our YouTube channel as well. He was able to pull in 1 touchdown, but he was open multiple times throughout the night. Unfortunately, his quarterback did not go through all of his progressions. Look as if he was more so ready to run. But Jaron Hamilton, like I said, was really impressive. I'm impressed with this kid. Whoever gets this speedster, whose nickname is Turbo, is going to get a talented wide receiver. I think with us talking about Hamilton, I think we have entered the discussion of the future of the Crimson Tide's 2023 wide receiver recruiting efforts. They currently have verbal commitments from Cole Adams and Malik Benson. Adams is a 2023 4-star wide receiver out of Owasso High School in Oklahoma. Malik Benson is currently a JUCO product, currently playing a JUCO season at Hutchinson Community College in Kansas. With those 2 guys verbally committed to Alabama at the moment, the Crimson Tide, I feel, are open to landing 4 wide receivers if they can get Hamilton and possibly Jalen Hale. I do feel that they would be happy with landing Hale or Hamilton to have 3 wide receivers in this class after landing 4 wide receivers during the 2022 recruiting cycle. So I think that is an interesting development Alabama fans need to keep their eyes on in terms of the Tide recruiting the wide receiver position, looking at both Hale and Hamilton moving forward during this 2023 recruiting cycle. But speaking of Hale, he will take an official visit to Alabama on this weekend. Currently the only official visitor who is expected to be in Tuscaloosa. Of course, this is not a big recruiting weekend based on who the Crimson Tide are going against in Bryant-Denny Stadium on Saturday, with them set to take on the Utah State Aggies. It'll definitely be bigger recruiting weekends throughout the season, especially during times where the Crimson Tide take on their SEC opponents, especially when they take on the Texas A&M Aggies, the other Aggies who they will play later in this season. It's going to be a much bigger weekend, most likely their biggest weekend of the 2023 football season in terms 2022 football season in terms of recruiting the 2023 prospects and future recruiting classes as well. But taking a look at Hale's recruitment down to Georgia, Alabama, and Texas. Took an official visit to Georgia during the summer. We'll take an official Alabama this weekend. Also taking an official visit to Texas before he announced a commitment in September to the school of his choice, which will be the Bulldogs, the Tide, or the Longhorns. The Crimson Tide have been recruiting Hale for a little over a year. He has a great relationship with Alabama's wide receiver coach, Holman Wiggins, and the Crimson Tide's head coach, Nick Saban. I had an opportunity to catch up with him at the Future 50 event a couple of months ago. He spoke highly of his relationship with both Wiggins and Saban. Actually got back to Tuscaloosa in July for the Crimson Tide's Champions Cookout. And a lot of people feel that the Crimson Tide have gained some momentum after that visit, I do feel the Crimson Tide are in a better position by getting him on campus again, especially ahead of an official visit that was already scheduled, because he had that official visit actually locked in before he took that unofficial visit in July. So I think that visit definitely improved Alabama's chances for this lengthy wide receiver who can make some great contested catches down the field, great ball judgment skills as well coming from the wide receiver position. Like I said, really lengthy guy with a not the biggest frame, but I think he has a decent frame. Taking a look at his junior film before I actually had an opportunity to see him in person at the Future 50, I thought he was a lot smaller than what he actually is. So he is a guy who's put together a little bit better than what most people may expect. So I really like Jalen Hale's size. Like I said, his ability to judge where the football is going, because taking a look at his junior film, he did not have the best quarterback with the strongest of arms, so he had to work back to a lot of catches. But going back to his recruitment, I think the Tide definitely have a shot of landing him. I think a great official visit could definitely really help the Crimson Tide. The Texas Longhorns were the favorite for Hale. I feel like even a couple of weeks ago, just based on him being a Texas product with the road that Texas has been on in the 2023 recruiting class, of course, with them pulling in Arch Manning as well. Have another great wide receiver already verbally committed, and 5-star wide receiver Jonte Cook, who has been openly recruiting Jalen Hale, who's actually recruiting very hard during the Future 50 event. So Texas is definitely the biggest threat in my opinion. I feel it's going to be an Alabama-Texas battle in the end, although Georgia is listed in his top 3. So a great official visit this weekend would really help the Crimson Tide pick up this talented wide receiver. And if they do miss on Hale, I think they would be happy landing a guy like Hamilton, just based on what I was able to see on Thursday night when I saw him in action. But that is what I want to talk about in this episode of The Process. Preview Jalen Hale being the Crimson Tide sole official visitor at this point in time on this weekend. Also provide an update on my travels from this weekend with me checking out Jaron Hamilton and Keon Keeley. Also ran by Caleb Beasley, who is a 2024 4-star defensive back out of Lipscomb Academy. I think Alabama fans need to at least know about at this point in time. As always, be sure to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, subscribe to the notification bell, be notified when we drop content on our YouTube channel. Also head over to the Touchdown Alabama website at touchdownalabama.com. Pick up your subscription today. With that subscription, you will be able to read all of our subscriber only articles. Get your hands on our yearly print magazine issue as well. Then head over to the Google Play Store if you have an Android device to download the Touchdown Alabama app. The app is also located in the Apple App Store if you have an Apple device. I will be back on the road this weekend. My Friday plans are currently in the air, but I definitely will be in Montgomery on Thursday to watch Carver Montgomery in action. 2 5-star targets for the Crimson Tide, Quay Rusaw and James Smith will provide updates, highlights, and all of those things for you guys throughout the weekend. If you follow me on Twitter at JDSmith31Smith, and also we'll come back on the episode on Tuesday to break down on what I saw with our highlight packs on our YouTube page as well. But as always, I am Justin Smith, the scouting and recruiting analyst for Touchdown Alabama.